Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. For anyone who's native to the Philadelphia area or is a visitor but has lived here at least for the last 2 years, you remember the January 2025 crash. A plane, a medevac jet, came crashing down, and we were all just trying to figure out what happened. Multiple people lost their lives that day. A whole slew of people were injured after that crash. Well, the National Transportation Safety Board ended up releasing a docket to the public yesterday. We're talking about hundreds of documents in there, pages worth of documents, including a 23-page report. So to help us comb through some of the information that we're getting here, I want to bring in Aviation Attorney John Gagliano. John, welcome back to Philadelphia Live.
Thanks, nice to be here.
Perfect. So I want to also point out that not only are you an aviation attorney, but you've also flown yourself before, right?
Yeah, I flew in the Navy and I'm a licensed pilot still.
Okay, so perfect person to try to comb through what's going on here. When we got that 23-page report, I just want to specify, it goes through most of the facts about the case itself. It's not drawing any conclusions just yet. But while they won't release their conclusions until the investigation is completed, I wonder if you have any thoughts about what you were able to read or maybe even watch so far.
Yeah, there was a lot of information released yesterday. Some new videos that give us different perspectives on what the plane was doing. It was really harrowing to watch, the rate of descent and the rate of turn that the jet was going through right before it hit. It leads me to believe that there was some sort of controllability problems, because you have to go by not only what you see on those videos, but what you hear. And what you can hear very clearly are jet engines working. So we know that there was not a complete engine loss on the jet, and that's important first step when we're looking at the investigation.
So I'm glad that you actually mentioned that, the angle of the plane and what you could hear. We got to get into this a little bit yesterday, but for people who are just now joining our conversation and as it is live, that trajectory of the plane on its way down, does that tell you anything about what may have happened or, what would have went wrong?
Yeah, well, that leads me to believe there was some sort of controllability problem on board. The controls were not working the way they should, or they were in a position that they should not have been. The question is, did the pilots put the controls there? Did the autopilot put the controls there? Did some other system put the controls, like the trim system, put the controls in a position where the jet was headed straight down? We saw in the Boeing 737 MAX 8 cases, the jet flew itself into the ground and the pilots had no input. We know that that's possible. We also know that the manufacturers of the jet, Bombardier, contributed to this NTSB's investigation with technical expertise, as did Honeywell, and they make some of the electronic systems on board.
Well, let's get into some of the things that are on board, or even just the jet itself. I heard that the operator had multiple accidents reported, they were on file before this happened, one being a fatal incident in Fort Lauderdale, November of 2013. We got another fatal incident February of 2019 in Toluca, Mexico, and then another fatal incident November 2023, also in Mexico. This is Cuernavaca that we're talking about here. Hearing this number of incidents, I'm just curious, is there a certain amount of accidents that have to happen to an aircraft or to an operator before they take it out of the wheelhouse, the roundabouts, or do they just fix it and move on? Like, how does that work?
Well, it's an abysmal safety record for the operator, really bad. But the question is really more properly directed to the FAA, because they're the ones that allow operators, air ambulances such as this one, charter jets, they're the ones that allow these planes to come into the country. The plane was allowed in, had an operating certificate to fly the mission that it flew, and its pilots were licensed. And actually, the pilots received training in U.S. facilities, in one of the best facilities in the world at Flight Safety in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, to your point there, I think the captain had received 9,000 flight hours before this incident happened. I think they said that another pilot who was on the plane had 2,600. We talked about this yesterday. That's a very decent amount of flight hours.
Yeah, the minimum hours for a pilot to fly for an airline like American or United is 1,500. So the pilot had 9,000 hours. That's significantly more, obviously many times more, and that shows that the pilot had some significant experience. He also, I looked at the training records or portions of the training records that were released with the NTSB's documents yesterday, and they say that he had a type certificate for a whole bunch of different Learjets, and he received specific differences training on this jet in November, just a couple months before the crash.
All right. I want to ask you another question. Yesterday, you had mentioned that you may be representing someone who was impacted or a family that was impacted by the flight. I'm just wondering, I know you can't necessarily go into the relationship that you have with your client, but did they have any reaction to any of the reports being released yesterday?
So, yeah, I am on the legal team that's representing clients with so many other fine attorneys in the Philadelphia area. My client doesn't have any comment regarding this horrible crash at this time. Thanks for asking, though. Her life has been torn apart, as many, many others have been in the Philadelphia area.
I can imagine. I know these kind of investigations with NTSB take a long time, so it's possible we won't even know what really happened for maybe even a couple of years. But it's helpful when we get to, dive a little deeper into some of the documents with someone like yourself. So I appreciate you, John, for making some time for us here on Philadelphia Live.
All right. Thanks for having me under these really sad circumstances.
Yeah. Hopefully next time we get to see each other, it'll be a little happier.